the podcast Little Girls Aren't Taught This. I am so happy to be bringing you this episode because it is with one of my friends and one of the most incredible coaches that I know in the space, Laura Lifts. So me and Laura have a relationship that goes way back. She worked with me back in 2020 maybe, around self-love and stepping into her vision, and ever since it's just been so amazing to see her grow and become a spiritual growth and transformation coach. So Laura helps people with divine feminine energy. She is big on manifestation, she is big on yoga, she is big on really helping women unleash that divine feminine energy and create a life that they desire, using that as a power portal. So Laura has her own podcast which is called Lift Yourself with Laura, and she is just really doing all of the things at the moment, and it's so beautiful to see. So in this episode we go into what all the things divine feminine healing, how we've used manifestation and meditation to really create the life that we desire, and also we talk about how you can begin to understand what divine feminine healing is and how you can really start to use that in your journey going forward. So we talk a lot about energy, we talk a lot about spirituality and self-love, and how all of these things are really intertwined to create the life and create the businesses that we both have. So I know you will enjoy this episode and I look forward to hearing your feedback. Hello, Laura. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Hello, Lydia. I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh my God, it's so exciting to have you on. Like, I've been meaning to get you on for a long time because the audience probably know, but we hang out a lot and we become like quite good friends, didn't we, over the past few years? So it's been something I've been meaning to do. So introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yes, okay, sure. So firstly, thank you so much for inviting me on to your amazing podcast. I have been listening to the episodes and I'm just so proud of how much you've grown since we first met about 3 years ago now. So my name is Laura. I'm known as Laura Lifts on social media, although Lifts is not my actual real surname. I just like to put it out there because people do get a little bit confused. And I am a personal development coach. I'm a mentor for women. I also have my own podcast, which is called Lift Yourself Podcast. And Lydia, you've been a guest on that a little while ago now, haven't you?
A while ago.
Yeah, and I'm also a hypnotherapist. So that's it's always a little bit like, how do you introduce yourself and what it is that you do? My passion is to help women to uncover their potential within, to help them to create a life that they love and to actually build their inner confidence and self-worth. So I do a lot of different stuff.
I love that. So one of the questions I love to start at is, like, if we start at the beginning, what I'm really interested to know is how your upbringing was as a little girl. So was there anything that stood out for you or any lessons that have shaped you into who you are today?
Yeah, well, when I was younger, I had a really good upbringing, I would say, and it was something that I was just never really went without anything as such. And I was just quite like a free character. I was just quite confident. And in my kind of time as a child, there wasn't really anything that was holding me back from being the real me. And I know a lot of people can probably resonate with this. And it wasn't until I went into school, and that's when a lot of the insecurities and self-doubt started to creep in. And as I've started to do a lot of work on myself, I began to reflect on my childhood, because that's a big part of self-development, healing the inner child and really understanding your inner child. And I remember there was a time, probably, I don't know whether it was in more like primary school, probably more so high school or a bit of both, where I probably felt like I wasn't good enough being the real me, and all these insecurities come up. So I was suppressing a lot of my true, authentic self as a child. And like I say, I was very much a confident child. I was that child who was like, if my nan had the family around, I would be stood at the front, like singing in front of everyone, even though I can't really sing that well, but that was literally me. Like, I was the one who was like in the choir and just like loved all of that. And I think it wasn't anything in particular that happened to me as a child that really stood out to make me feel like I wasn't good enough. I think it was these small things that were happening. And as I've obviously become familiar with the inner work, I know that a lot of the time that's referred to like small t traumas, where it can really impact like your subconscious mind and your belief system, and making me almost like detached from the real me. So yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question there, or if I've gone around the houses a little bit with that.
No, because I think that's important, because I think not everything about our childhoods have to be like big or traumatic or significant. But what I really got from what you were saying then is like, you just become aware, you just start to get these like kind of like messages that do impact you about like maybe showing up in a certain way or who we think we have to be. And especially in high school, that's a big thing. And I can definitely relate to that, because, you know, when I was a teenager, I wasn't as outgoing as what I was when I was a child. Because for me, I put on a lot of weight when I went into high school. Like I was like the fat girl in high school. So even though I loved nothing more than being on stage and being center of attention and being loud, like that part of myself like really went away, because I just didn't feel as confident anymore, because people would make comments about my body. So I can definitely relate to what you're saying. But do you feel like there was anything that stood out for you around, you know, don't be as confident, don't be as outgoing, like it almost feels like it's this sense of not enoughness?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was from when I was in high school as well, where I started out that. And I used to just think it was me who felt that way, which is interesting, isn't it? Because the majority of women that I speak to now have all felt like that in their past too, when they were that age. But when you are in high school, it is your life, isn't it? So you feel like that identity there that you fit into is you, and you can't, break out of that. So for example, I was never, the popular girl who had all the nice clothes and all the boys fancied her. Like that was never me. I was very like, I had a group of friends and I was very sporty. I liked to, play football when I was younger. I just didn't have the confidence to be able to put myself out there more. I held myself back a lot, especially in school. I had a lot of potential and I just wasn't looking at it like that, because I was just kind of believing that, oh, well, I don't want to, like you say, be too much. I don't want to be seen too much, because it exposes me to, it's not comfortable, is it? Because it's comfortable being in this space. And then another thing that really stood out for me when I was definitely in school, and even like my early 20s, was that I never really felt like I fully belonged. So even though I did have people around me, I wasn't like alone. There was just a disconnect from my true self. And I would always look at other women in school, and I did that as in my early 20s and even in my mid 20s, and I would always think like, they have it amazing, they've got it perfect, they must seem to just be, it's them, they've got the answers, I need to be more like them, I need to be more like her. And then you're just not being like yourself. And I think when I was doing that subconsciously and consciously from school, I was more and more sending signals to my own mind and my own beliefs that I am not good enough as myself, so I need to be more like this person. And authenticity, I know you speak a lot about it, Lydia, it's so important and it's so powerful to be able to stand in your truth. And as a child, I just didn't have this awareness, and like I say, I just believed this was me. I just believed that it was like, I'm the only one who feels like this, no one else does, because it's not something you're going to speak about, is it, when you're 14 with your mates?
No.
And I just got on with it, and it just really manifested more and more as I got older, because of obviously like other society's expectations.
I think as well, it's like you don't know. Well, I just remember back in like if I was a teenager or in my early 20s, like when I was in that toxic time, I didn't have the tools to be able to notice what the fuck was going on. It wasn't even a question in my mind, because it was so normal. It was so normal to compare. It was so normal to criticize. It was so normal to just go through the motions, And I know we can both relate to fitness as well. We've been on our journeys with fitness, but it was like fitness at one point, I thought it gave me all the answers to all of these things, like lack of confidence, lack of self-worth, like not being myself, not being seen. And then all of those just manifested in this need to like objectify and like starve and overtrain and over sexualize myself. And actually what I thought was helping me or saving me or helping me be more of these things was actually just the same underlying issues that were just manifesting out in a different way. So how's your journey with fitness been in relation to everything you spoke about, like lack of self-worth, lack of confidence?
Yeah, wow. Fitness has been a huge part of my life. And as I say,
Yeah.
as a child, I was quite sporty as well, very much into football, big Liverpool fan. All my family are massive Liverpool fans. I'm not so much into football anymore, but I kind of like fell out of fitness, and I stopped it around like the age of like 16, you know, when you go into college and then you're going into university. And then I started getting back into the gym and doing like different classes. I remember I used to go to body pump loads and circuit training and spin. And I was always curious about the weight area. I always used to see, you know, women in the gym and they'd be lifting weights. And I just thought, oh my God, she looks so amazing. Like, she looks so confident. Like, I really want to start that. I really want to try that. My mindset with it was more, obviously this is on reflection. I didn't realize this when I was in it. It was like I used the gym and going so frequently as a way of escaping how I really felt about me and where I was in life, because it was a way of being busy. And I know that the gym can help with your mental health, and I do think it's important to train. I'm an advocate for living a healthy lifestyle, you know, being consistent with your workouts, doing something that you enjoy. However, when I was getting into the gym, the energy behind why I was wanting to do it wasn't right. It wasn't good and it wasn't healthy. So that then did manifest in, you know, me doing the classes, but then I'd do cardio before the classes, I'd do cardio after the classes. I'd worked a full day in work. It's hard, like my eating wasn't great. I wasn't eating anywhere near as much as what I should have been for my body, you know, for what I was burning. And I don't actually know how I was energetically getting through the workouts I was getting through because of that. And it wasn't healthy. You know, I got to a point, I mean, this is going back years now, where I was so underweight that my period stopped. Wow. I still couldn't see in my mind that I was slim enough. So like, I would look in the mirror, and I'm sorry if this does trigger anyone, or I'm saying this from like love in terms of like what I've shared and how I've been able to overcome it. I would look in the mirror and I would always criticize myself. Like, when I was in a relationship at the time, I always used to say to the guy that I was with, oh, I look fat, you know, speak really negatively about myself. I used to just constantly compare. So yeah, I guess that's true. The mindset I had in school when I was comparing myself to these other women, the popular girls, let's say, it gone and transferred to comparing myself to the women on like the fitness space, and needing that more and needing more and wanting to be slim and just disconnected from my body. So like, not seeing what other people were seeing when I was looking in the mirror. And then I started to do a bit of a change, really. I had like a realization before things got too serious, luckily enough. And I began to go into more of the weight training, and I started to, the eating, being fully transparent, probably didn't improve till like the pandemic. I still had not healthy eating habits completely, and I was still not fully, you know, I still had this like restrictive mentality and mindset and guilt with food. And it's only really been since I started to do a lot of the inner work and self-development that I've been able to heal that naturally. And I think, you know what, a lot of that is because my confidence is obviously increased and my self-worth's increased. So the food's not so much a reflection of my inner self-worth and my confidence. So like I say, I started doing the weights, really enjoyed it, began to see changes, and I got more educated in lifting weights and building muscle. At first, I was that girl who was like, I don't want to lift a weight because I'm scared that I might gain like loads of muscle. I'm just gonna look like Arnold, like, what's that bodybuilder, Arnie
Arms.
I was like, I'm gonna end up looking like him. And then I was just like, all of my head, I remember I didn't want to take protein at the time because I was like genuinely fearful of that. I mean, that's how lack of education I had, do you know what I mean? But a lot of girls have been in that space, and there still might be some who
relate to that space.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the ideal was lean, that's slim. Like, I'm 5'2", you know, I'm not a Victoria's Secret model. I'm never going to be a Victoria's Secret model. And I think you're always like striving to be something that you're not. So,
but we don't know that though. Isn't that weird though? Like, we don't know that we can never have those figures. It's like, I used to watch Beyonce Drunken Love. the video for it because she just looks fucking insane in it on the treadmill. Like Beyonce is so muscly and lifts weight, and there was me running for an hour on the treadmill watching, going, that's going to give me Beyonce's body. Like, what the fuck? But we're not taught that at all. Like, imagine we was.
Yeah, you need that understanding because it helps you to be able to find, okay, well, exercise is a way of making me feel good, making me feel strong, and it's not a form of punishment. And I think even though, like I say, when I first started in the gym, I always had a curiosity, interestingly enough, with the weights area. And I think a lot of women do. I think a lot of women look at the weights and think, oh, I'd like to try that, but I don't know where I'd start. I think we've all been there, haven't we? So I went on that journey, and don't get me wrong, this took, quite a long time. It was a number of years. And now, in terms of like fitness, I remember, sorry, just rewind back a little bit, like a few years ago, I was in a place where I was really like lifting weights all of the time, going to the gym 7 days a week. I didn't want to have a rest day, so I was still in that obsessive, go mentality, which wasn't great for my mind or my body. And you'd see things on Instagram, like little memes that were almost like reinforcing that belief that I had, that it was actually okay to feel like that and actually not give yourself a rest day, which really in reality it's not. But I was just thinking, yeah, it's fine, like this is okay. And I remember I was considering doing a bodybuilding competition. I'm so glad that I never did that now.
Oh my God, I look back at those videos and think, like, I just watched myself and I'm like, are you fucking stupid? Like, why would you do that?
Now, because bear in mind, I'd obviously had the issues with my period a couple of years prior, and I hadn't been lifting weights for all that long to really have any amount of muscle to, I don't know why. I think what it was because that whole space of like body power, Gymshark was up and coming. I was watching all the fitness YouTubers, and I still like and follow a lot of them now, and many of them have kind of transitioned into different things now than what they were doing at the time then. And I think it was a case of, it just shows where the evidence of me not being connected to my authentic self and using fitness and my image, the way I looked, as external validation. I remember I used to go to the gym, and I'm going to fully be honest because I think it's important for me to speak my truth. Like, I used to go to the gym, I had like long hair extensions, face full of makeup, and this isn't a judgment, by the way, for people who want to go to the gym and look like that. You do you. But I just know that I was going to the gym and it just wasn't a good energy. And it's like, and now I reflect back and it's like, why do you think you were attracting what you were attracting at the time, Laura? It's not like to say the way you look attracts everything. It was the energy. It was what I was energetically putting out, and then I was just following up with that. And it's like, the way I look at fitness now is, it helps me feel strong, it helps me feel healthy. I do enjoy weightlifting, and I kind of go through phases with it where I'm more like, what's the word, like enthusiastic of training, and then I'm not so much. I do still like doing a bit of cardio, but nowhere near to the excess that I used to. And I'm quite like, I look at myself and I'm in a place where I'm confident in my body. I wouldn't say like I don't have any moments of doubt, because I'm only human and that will always creep in. I've just got the tools now to be able to not let myself fall down into that spiral. So I do enjoy training, and I think it will always be a part of my life. And I think maybe, I might transition away from lifts and go more into like yoga in the future, who knows. I just feel like the biggest transformation for me with fitness was understanding myself, doing the personal development, and realizing that my worth isn't attached to how I look or my body size or my body shape or what other men think of me, or if other men think that I'm attractive. It's nothing to do with that. It's about how I feel when I train. And if I feel confident in how I train, how I look, then that's all that counts, really, isn't it? Because it's the energy behind what you do, which is what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, it's the intention. It's huge. And it's like, I also go through phases like that where I'm really into it. So like when I was doing my masters, because I was like super focused on everything, I was like smashing it, like doing a strength program. And now I've come back from Dubai and it's hot and stuff. I'm just like, I just want to do loads of like cardio and sweat and get that like pump in my body. So now I've gone back to CrossFit. I'm probably going to slim down a little bit and then I'll go back. And I think that's the other thing that it's okay for people to know is like, sometimes you'll be super on it with training, because we've been training for years. Like for me, I've been training now for like 9 years. Like, it's a long time to be doing the same thing, like weightlifting for like 9 years.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna have days and months and periods where you're like, fucking love going to the gym and smashing weights out, and then sometimes you're like, can't be arsed. Like, maybe I just want to do yoga, or maybe I want to try CrossFit, or maybe I just want to get my walks in every day. And that's also totally fine, because I think there's a lot of pressure around going to the gym, doing the same thing all the time. Like, if you come away from that, like, remember, did you used to have that thing where it was like, if you leave, if you didn't go to the gym for like a week on holiday, like, I'm gonna lose my gains.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah. Honestly, like,
the
mindset that I had at the time for a number of years was, it makes me a little bit sad, to be honest, because it just makes me feel like what I missed out on, or the opportunities if you're away on this lovely holiday and then you're not wanting to eat certain foods because you're worried that you're going to gain weight. It's like, what was I actually thinking? Like, no. So it does make me feel sad, and it's not to, like, you know, undermine anyone's feelings or emotions if you're going through that, because this is a serious thing. It's just understand that you can't, you know, I'm a big advocate in that we're responsible for our life, and we can make changes and we can make progress. We don't have to stay in the same place. You just have to be willing to look at things a little bit differently and not attach your identity to being like, I have to train like this. Otherwise, if I don't get 5 workouts in this week, then that means I'm not good enough, because then you're tying your self-worth to something external again. Your self-worth's not about what you do, it's who you are. So going to the gym is something that you do, so if you're enjoying the gym, and whether you're doing classes or training by yourself, as long as you feel like it's giving you a benefit for your life, it's adding to your life, then keep doing it. And they're looking good. Let's face it, we all want to look nice, we all want to feel confident on holiday or on a night out or whenever. Then that's the byproduct. That, and you just have to, like, one of the things I realized is stop looking so much again what everyone else is doing and focus more on what I'm doing. And I've spoken to a lot of people in the fitness space, especially on my podcast, and they've said how, you know, they've transitioned, and they used to believe that they had to have this identity attached to being this, you know, Tupperware eating, you know, cardio in the morning, weights in the afternoon, like, lifestyle, and that's not them anymore, because they've grown. And I think people, the minute that we start feeling that we have to live up to this expectation, it just becomes like a burden in some ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And I think it's like, as well, you know, this is one of the reasons why I decided as a therapist to become the body image therapist, because I think it's totally possible, but I think it's also sad that a lot of people think it's not possible for them. But I think I know if it's possible for me, and like, obviously people with like diagnosed eating disorders and stuff, it's, you know, or like, if you've got issues with body image attached to trauma, it's you know, it's difficult. It's not the same journey for everyone. But I know if it's possible for me, because I know how I used to think and I used to feel compared to how I think and I feel now. I know that it's so possible for thousands of other women. But it's just, they have to believe that it is possible, and it's just an energy thing. And if it's one thing I learned when I had one boob for 3 months, it's that literally I work so hard to feel good. And hand on my, I'm not going to lie, I genuinely felt good. Like, I would look in the mirror and be like, I feel good when I put clothes on. Like, if I remember I was on Formy Beach with a bikini on, I did not give a shit, because I was like, what I've realized, it's all my perception. It's not about what anybody else is looking at me thinking. If in my head I'm thinking I feel like the tits, then that's going to radiate from me. Like, 100%. It's all about how you perceive yourself and your own energy. And that's the most powerful thing ever. So I know you do a lot of work with mindset. And I'm curious to know, like, how have you got to the point where you are a coach? Because also, one of the really interesting things with us is we come from similar backgrounds in terms of our jobs. We both ended up as coaches. And what was your journey to getting to this point?
Yeah, amazing question. Just to add though, because I don't want to lose this about the energy thing, have you ever like come across a man, for example, and he's not that attractive, but there's just something about him? That's because of the energy. So it's attractiveness, and what you can magnetize towards you is more about like what you're admitting, totally. So you can have like someone who's super unreal looking, but that have not much about them, and then you can have someone who's not like average, but then their energy is just really on point, so you're drawn to them. So I definitely agree with that. So yeah, my background, so just for people's understanding, because I'm assuming that not a lot of people know this, I did a degree at university back when I was 18, very young, and I qualified to be a social worker. So I've always had a passion and interest of wanting to help people, and that's always been within me. And my transition towards being a coach, so I didn't actually mention this, but when I was in the fitness space, I had it in my mind, I was like, I'm going to do a personal training course, I'm going to be a qualified personal trainer, and I'm going to go down that road. And then I did that course in 2019, just before the pandemic hit, and I actually started holding some boot camps, outdoor boot camps, and they started going really well. And we'd do like little meditations at the end of it and journaling sessions. I'd bring like notepads for the girls and get them to reflect on it. Yeah, so and I enjoyed doing it because I do like interacting with people. And I remember at the time, Lydia, I think it was probably just before I'd met you, there was something within me, and I was like, I know that I want to build and create something for myself, and I know I want to help women. I know I've got something within me that can really help people, because it's a passion of mine, and I know what my values are, I know what my interests are. And it was something that has kind of come about as I started to work on myself and get to know myself, doing the personal development work, investing in myself, reading the books, developing my own rituals, going through kind of that journey and making the transition from my self-worth being attached to fitness to, well, what is it that I really want to do? How do I want to help people? What can I create and build for me? That's mine. But it's also making an impact in other people's lives. What am I good at? So I started asking those questions, doing a lot of self-reflection, and I just knew I want to, I became more familiar with the online coaching space, and I was like, this is what I want to build. I want to be able to build something that I'm working with women, specifically with mindset. I'm a lot more passionate about the mindset work in a sense of the work I want to do with women as opposed to fitness, because the mindset stuff, the inner work, has allowed me to have the biggest transformation, because I started to become familiar with the energetics and raising my self-worth, self-love work that I did with you as well, Lydia. And that was really helping me to just come back to, who am I? What do I want to do? How can I help people? And how am I going to put myself out there? So in order to be able to do that, I had to be the embodiment of the work that I wanted to do. And I didn't consciously realize all this at the time, but I started to actually implement all of these teachings, seeing changes in how I felt, the decisions that I was making in life. I got really interested and curious about the conscious mind, subconscious mind. I began meditating, and I've meditated pretty much every day, not every single day because I'm not perfect, since like 2019, late 2019. And I tell you what, the biggest transformation point for me, and this happens for a lot of people, is it was 2019, it was about like October, and knew I was turning 30 in the June in 2020. And I remember thinking to myself, I just feel like I'm not living up to my potential. I just feel like there's something that I'm not doing it, and there's something I need to be doing. Like, I started to question, have I made the right decisions in my life? Am I going down the right path? Is there something else that I could be doing? Who have I been living my life for? All of these questions were coming up, and it's quite common for people around that age. And I become familiar with Saturn returns, which is when the planets align around like the age of 27 to 30. And I think what happened with me on reflection is I'd been going through my Saturn returns around that age. However, I was in denial, so I was suppressing it. And I wasn't listening to the changes, and I was just ignoring it. And I was just ignoring it like that inner voice is just going to go away. So like I thought that it would, and it didn't. It just got louder and louder. And then I started to realize like I need to do something about this here, because I'm not getting any younger. And if I really want to be able to help people in the way that I want, then why not just follow what my heart is calling me to do, because it's telling me that for a reason. So I always say this to my clients or whoever: if you've got a vision, if you've got something within you that you know that only you can see, it's because it's been put in your mind for a reason. So it's your responsibility to follow it. You don't have to know every step of the way. You don't even need to know how you're going to get there. You just have to trust it, and you just have to follow it, and you just have to keep showing up for yourself and being consistent. And life's going to throw these different challenges at you that is going to make you question, am I going down the right path? Do I need to change? And maybe you do need to make a little bit of a tweak and change, but it's all part of the journey. So I actually began to make those changes in my life. And then last year, I qualified as a hypnotherapist, obviously because of my interest with the subconscious mind and going into hypnosis. Hypnosis is really powerful because it does help you to heal a lot as well. And I didn't actually expect hypnosis would help me heal from a breakup that I'd gone through last year. I was like thinking it would be more around just accessing the subconscious mind and seeing if there's any like limiting beliefs that are holding me back and how I could move past it. It did really help me on my healing journey as well at that point. So yeah, I think for me, becoming a coach, it's really about me stepping into my power, being the embodiment of that, and then attracting the women who feel ready to work with me on their mindset, on their self-development. And even if it is women who are in the fitness space, very much in that divine masculine, all up in their heads, and not actually allowing themselves to be present and to be connected to the body and understand themselves better, or they're living the life for everyone else. Like, that's the type of person who I'm right now meant to be working with and helping, because I've gone through a similar journey. And I've spoken to a lot of people, Lydia, and I know that you were the same as well. When you start getting into this work, it can feel quite lonely, the self-development work, because not a lot of people are interested in it. Not a lot of people understand it. And you can feel a little bit like, I don't know, like, I guess it goes back to that thing that I said earlier on, how I always felt like I never really belonged. But like when you go into like the self-development space and then you're wanting to listen to the podcast, I mean, I did consume a lot, I was consuming all the time. And I think there's like a fine line between that. Yeah, consume, it's amazing to learn. You're only going to actually make a change when you start to take action on what you're consuming.
Yeah, the implementation.
Yeah,
it's
which is powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so powerful. I think the thing about what you just said about it being lonely, I definitely agree with that. And I feel like self-development and self-help at the moment is so like in. And
yeah,
it's like I actually fucking hate the self-help space. Like I'm like,
do
it's
you?
so saying that as like a coach and a therapist, but I think a lot of it is fucking toxic, and I think a lot of it treats healing like it is a destination that we get to and then everything's like falls into place, when the reality is it's literally a continuation, and it's a continuation of noticing, having that self-awareness and going into uncomfortable parts of yourself. Like as a whole, my journey with self-development and self-awareness and all of that stuff has been incredible. But if I had to sit down with it, it's also been fucking uncomfortable. And it's been actually very difficult and at times very painful, because that's what it's about. It's about unlearning all of these things, which means it's uncomfortable conversations. It's being on your own. It's being on your own with your own bullshit and calling it out.
Yeah.
It's instead of suppressing emotions with like binging on Netflix or bottles of wine or going out with our friends, it's actually sitting with the emotions and being like, fuck, this is so uncomfortable. And it's not easy. And I think people realize that, like when people used to come to me for self-love, there's a difference between them thinking that they wanted it and then actually doing the work and being like, wow, this is actually so hard. And I'd be like, yeah, it is hard, but the rewards for me being in this space and this self-awareness outweighs a million times over how I could not imagine living my life the way I used to live my life, with the mindset and stuff and just going through the motions and not stepping into my truth or speaking my truth. Like I could not imagine not being so authentic now. It just like, it literally makes me so sad to think that that's how I used to live and that's how a lot of people live. But it's very interesting. It's like the implementation is the difficult part for people.
You know what, you touched on a really good point there about the pressure and the toxic side of self-development, and I do agree with you to an extent. I think it is actually something that a lot of people don't talk about, and there's almost like a belief that when you start to do this inner work, that life's going to get better and that everything's going to improve straight away, and you're just going to keep going up and up and up and everything's just going to be amazing. The reality is life doesn't work like that, and life's going to throw challenges at you. You can do the healing work, you can do the routine, the morning routine, you can do all of the things, but we can't stop and control what's going to happen externally. This work is about you being able to understand yourself better, to be able to react and respond in a different way, to be able to increase your self-worth, and knowing that when life does throw like things at you that are just out of your control, you're able to respond to that differently, so you're not going back to the same behaviors. I think a lot of people feel in a certain way that if they're not doing certain things, that they're not actually working on themselves. So what I mean is, if they're not getting up at 5 a.m. and they're not ticking all the things off the box, that means that they're not making progress. And then again, it's almost like tying your self-worth to what you're actually doing in your morning routine. And it's not about that. It is, like you say, being comfortable looking at your limiting beliefs. Where's this come from? Why do I feel like this? Why am I feeling like this? Is another thing no one really talks about: insecurities. Everyone's got insecurities. Yes, you can have self-love, self-worth, self-respect. Your insecurities can be triggered at any given moment because you're human. At the end of the day, you've got emotions. So what happens is, and obviously I know that, Lydia, you're an embodiment of this, you recognize the insecurity or the emotion, and then you sit with it and you reflect on it and you observe it and you release it, and you're dealing with it in a healthy way. So people sometimes feel like they go into self-development and taking 3 steps forward and then 5 steps back, and they're not, they are making progress. They're just not seeing it because of the way that it's portrayed on social media or wherever, that it's just a case of everything just gets better and everything just gets flowy and everything just, well, now it gets quite messy. Actually, it does get better.
Messy.
It does get better, don't get me wrong. It's not like you're just doing this for no reason. The reason it gets better is because you understand yourself more, you're happy to be your authentic self, you understand what it is that you want, you're able to follow something, and the way that you get value from who you are, it's not by what you do, it's just who you are. And it's like, understand that you're already enough, and you will attract the things to you that match that when you spend time doing that inner work. But it's like, yeah, it's a case of the whole concept with like 5 a.m. and having to do all these things and then constantly like working non-stop. It's like in line with that hustle culture. I do believe there's a time and place where we do have to knuckle down and we do have to work harder than what you do. You do have to make sacrifices, and I know that that's not a glamorous thing to say. The reality is, if you want to change your life, you're going to have to change certain things that you're doing every single day. If you don't want to live an average life, you've got to stop doing average people things. It doesn't need to be that you don't have a life at all. There might just be certain seasons of your life where you have to, like, I know not a lot of people like this word, but like hustle a bit more. You have to like cut back on certain things. You have to not buy the hair extensions and, you know, the fillers and the makeup because you want to invest in yourself. What's your priorities with self-development, you know? And if you can do both, amazing. Not everyone's in that position, so you have to look at it from a place of where I am now, where do I want to go, how am I going to get there, what are the baby steps that I can take, and what action can I take that's going to show the universe and also show myself that I'm serious to this. And you have to sometimes do different. And like I say, it's not a case of not having a life. I think joy is important, and I know I've definitely been in places in my self-development journey and just building a business where I've not given myself that joy, and I think it's like it's really vital. And the way that I started to build that joy back into my life was just like romanticizing the small things of life. The coffee in the morning, the walk, do you know what I mean? Like going and meeting a friend, you know, just going to a spa, getting a massage, you know, just these small, and you know, it's all these things where you're just like, instead of waiting for this big event or something happening that's going to make you feel like you've made it and you're successful, bringing joy back into the life, so you into your life, so you start to enjoy the journey more, because it is a journey, and you have to like allow it to be as part of, you know, your development, because when you do that, it's less likely to be a fad, and then it's more likely to just be who you are. It's part of your self-image. So successful people who've built and created something for themselves, done the inner work, they will still do the inner work. It's not like you do the inner work for 6 weeks and then that's it. You just get on with your life and you don't need to look at it again. It doesn't work like that. You know, any thought leader, any successful person, they're always up leveling, they're always, you know, investing in themselves, they're always up, you know, educating themselves. We can know things, but people, they're just genuinely like curious. They have that part of their image and part of their identity. So it's like having the joy in the moment of like the small things. And then also I would say, like, when you do achieve certain things that you wanted to do, celebrate it. Because if you don't celebrate yourself, no matter how small it is, even if you think it's not something that you expected it to be, you still got there, you're still moving in that direction. Because the personal development space can be toxic in the sense of, if you're not at this point, then you're not successful. Well, no, that's not right. If you're making progress on your own journey, that is success, because you're moving forward. So celebrate the success that you're making, celebrate the journey that you're on, because it's individual to you. It's not the same journey as your friend or the girl you follow on Instagram. It's different. You've got a different life path. So the small things of like reinforcing that, yes, I am on the right path, I'm really appreciating this, I'm really grateful for this. And then when you achieve something, allowing yourself to celebrate it, and then just continue going on. Like, one of the quotes that I always use, I talk about him a lot because he's like been a big part of my self-development journey. I definitely recommend people check him out, is Ed Milet, and he talks about blissful dissatisfaction with personal development, where you're blissfully dissatisfied. So you're in a blissful state of like knowing, I'm enjoying building this business, or I'm enjoying, working on myself, doing this healing work, even though it's uncomfortable, because it's find a new part of me of strength that I didn't know I had. It's really allowing me to reflect on choices that I'm making in my life, and I know that this is going to impact me positively in 12 months time. I've got the dissatisfied side because I know that I've got so much potential within me, and then it's my duty in life to uncover that potential and pursue that potential, or attract that potential, whichever way you want to look at it, as I move through. And it's just stepping away from the personal development space of not looking at what everyone else is doing as well, and finding what works for you. You don't have to do all the things. There might be a morning when you're off work, or the weekends, or whether you work for yourself, and you can schedule free time that you can have a really slow morning, have a super long morning routine. That's amazing. But you might not always be able to do that. So you're still making progress, whether you're just writing your gratitude down in the morning and that's all you do that day. You have a meditation in the evening. Just keep taking baby steps, because it does compound, it all adds up. So you just have to stop like being so looking at what everyone else is doing to justify what your growth journey is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what I'd love to know from all of that is, what are the main lessons you've learned along the way in terms of successes and failures for everything, including like the fitness journey, self-development, going self-employed?
Yeah, so for me, what I would say in terms of lessons, that even if something doesn't work out the way that I envisioned it and the way that I hoped, and it is like seen as a failure, it's never really a failure. It's just a lesson, and it is just guiding me along my journey to be able to do the things that I need to do or that I want to do. And everything that I experience, whether it's like taking a risk, putting myself out there, you know, and then not going in the way that I want, it's just building my strength, and it's just building who I am. And I know that one of the things I did, especially at the beginning and even till recently, was I always used to look and compare myself with other coaches and think, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. She's talking about this, should I talk about that? Because she's achieved and reached success doing this method, this strategy. Is that the strategy and method that I need to follow in order to, get that success in my own world? And then I realized that while strategy is important, it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's going to work for me and my style and my audience and my personality. So really allowing myself to get to know who I am authentically, what my voice is, what I want to share, and then what feels good for me to share, how I want to show up as a coach, and not care so much about what other people are doing. Yeah, you can take inspiration and it can show you that things are possible to be achieved, but not like solely focus like, I'm not successful in my small wins because it's not in comparison to what this other person's achieved, even though they're miles ahead of me in terms of like experience and stuff. So I think we can really get consumed in thinking that our path and our success has to be a certain way, and everyone's is different. And I realized that the more that I just lean into trusting, like having a trust for a greater purpose, and that I know that I'm following my soul's path, I know I love what it is that I do, and I'm constantly working on myself all of the time, that things will just happen when they are meant to happen, and they will align when they're meant to align, instead of trying to force things. I definitely I know that you could probably resonate with this, how at the beginning you'd like to know what the next step is or what's going to happen, how things are going to happen, and it just doesn't work like that. Especially when you're building something of your own, you have to be uncomfortable in the uncertainty and just know that everything is happening as it should. So yeah, for me, I know like failures aren't nice when they happen at the time. There's always something to learn from it. So it's like, what would you do differently? What did work well? How can you tweak that? How can you change that? How can you use it to your advantage? What did you learn about yourself in that failure? What did it give you? You know, it's never always something about taking away from us. And if we're always tying our successes to external things that happen, we're always going to be chasing the next thing. Like, your success is not, your validation and your worthiness is not in your client's yes, and it's not in your client's no. It's just in who you are. It's who you are. So you know that you are the embodiment of what it is that you talk about. You know you have so much that you can offer to this person, this podcast listener, this YouTube subscriber or client, just by being yourself. And each time that that person consumes your content, they like your post, they're paying you with their time, they're paying you with their energy. So just because they may not be ready to invest, it doesn't mean it's a failure. It just means that it's just not right now, and it's just not an aligned match, and it doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't you're not on the right path.
Yeah, I love that. And there were so many things that when you were talking, I was like, oh my God, totally resonate with that. And like, one of the things is definitely the comparison. I think, especially in the online world, I think, especially as a coach, you know, now you see a lot of talk around like six figures. And like, I've had moments where I felt like absolute like shit because I'm not having like multi six figure launches or multi six figure this. And then I just have to like catch myself out on that. And I'm just like, what the fuck even is that? Like, who cares? Like, no one cares. Like, as long as I know I'm making impact and I have a life where I have so much freedom and like success for whatever that looks like for me, it kind of like other people's, I think you said this earlier on, but like other people's goals kind of become like our goals. And like, actually, one of the big things for me when I come away from social media for a month was all of that disappeared. And it was the most profound thing I've ever experienced, because then I was like, oh my God, I can literally see and tune in and tap into what's mine. That six-figure goal, like, I love money and I love making money and I love wealthy women, but I didn't start this business for the six figures. Like, I'm not driven by the numbers, I'm driven by the impact. And I always believe, you know, if you lead with impact, income will follow. And then I started to get really caught up on the figures and I was like, wow, that's not even mine. That's not mine. It's so, and this is why self-awareness goes hand in hand with any kind of like business or development, or, you know, like going after your goals. Have you ever found that like other people's stuff has become yours?
I've definitely felt like it's tainted my voice. Like, I've kind of, I want to say, like, mimicked almost what they're saying, because I've not trusted my own inner guidance, my own voice. I've not been comfortable in sharing my truth. So that's why doing the inner work has helped me a lot in different areas of my life, because I've become more confident in what I've got to say. And don't get me wrong, certain moments of doubt might creep in, and that's why I constantly do the mindset work, because I haven't got it all figured out. The way I look at things is like the universe. I know that me and you're really spiritual. I'm sure people listening to this podcast are spiritual as well. The universe wants to give you what you want, right? There's abundance, there's ultimate things there that you can have. If it's not coming to you in the way that you want it to right now, there's a reason for that. The universe is just protecting you because the foundation isn't strong enough to hold what it is that you want. So in your mind, you might be looking at this coach and then thinking, oh, well, she's talking about this or she's posting that, I should share something similar or do something similar to get that success. What you're not seeing is all of her failures, all of the setbacks that she's faced, all of the other things she's done in the background to build that strong foundation that she's got to hold that success. Whereas we're just looking at the external, and then when it's not happening for us, we're thinking, oh, we're making it about who we are, like our worthiness or whether we can do it, when really the universe is just saying, I want to give you this because that's why you have it so passionately within you. Just not yet, because you need to just do this foundation, but you need to have a bit of patience and trust, build. And then once you're able to do that, that's when energetically, obviously, we become a match to it. Also, as well, we can actually hold it, we can keep it, and it can grow and expand from there.
Yeah, and there's something so powerful about the holding of it. And it was like something I always say is like last year when I made the amount of money I made in 2 weeks. It's like it took me a lot to turn around and sit with the realization that I was never going to be able to like keep hold of that cash and continue to generate that cash, because working class background, had all kinds of money beliefs, and I worked through my money blocks, and it allowed me to receive. But exactly like you've just said, I didn't have the belief system and the foundations in place for me to hold that, understand how to utilize money management in a way that allows me to create more wealth. So it just literally went, and it was the biggest lesson I ever learned in business and in money, and it was an incredible lesson. And that's one of the things I've realized with failures is actually you learn so much in them. Like, I don't really like the word failure, to be honest, but I think it's just an outcome, and maybe it's not the outcome that we wanted, or it's not a pleasant outcome. But I always find if I really tune into myself in those moments, that's where I learn the most. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's go again.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is as well with money consciousness, it's all subconscious. You know, it's all our awareness. It's a set point. We have a set point and inner awareness as to what we feel that we can receive and keep hold of. So if we're not used to having a certain amount of wealth when it comes to us, we'll quickly in our subconscious mind do what we can to get rid of it because it doesn't feel safe. That's why doing the inner work around your subconscious beliefs, obviously the money mindset stuff, it helps because it raises your set point to see that you are this wealthy person, you deserve to have this money, you deserve to be paid for your services, and then you are going to look at things differently. It's like why a lot of lottery winners end up losing the money after a couple of years, because they just spend it all because the consciousness isn't on level with a wealthy person. So people sometimes think, oh, money mindset work's so boring, I don't want to do it, it's triggering. It's actually really powerful, and you have to be patient with it because you've got a lot of programming going on there. Like you say, depending on your area, you know, your upbringing, all of that contributes to your self-image of with money and what you are going to receive and how you're going to deal with that. And this is another thing as well, the way I look at it is like, if you can't manage, say if you're getting paid right now from your job £2,000 a month, you can't manage £2,000 a month, the universe isn't going to give you £10,000 a month, because you're just not going to be able to manage £10,000 a month. It's the same thing. So you just have to look at the habits and the behaviors.
Yeah, it's like more money. I always say like more money doesn't solve your money mindset. It actually just like amplifies the beliefs that are playing out around it. But one of the things I think is interesting, I had other questions around like self-love and spirituality, but I feel like we've kind of spoke about how they intertwine. And one of the things I'd love to know is, how has that process been for you investing in yourself? Because I know for me, when I first started out, it was very uncomfortable. It was like edgy. It was like, fuck, how, like, what is even going to happen if I invest in myself? And it was so new to me, investing in another coach, investing in a mastermind, investing in business. How has that journey been for you? Because it's massively wrapped up in money beliefs, and it's like, this is one of the reasons why I created Worthy of Wealth. And even though it's a money mindset course, it's predominantly based around your self-worth, around abundance and receiving, being able to then, you know, spend that on yourself in intentional ways, because it just increases your abundance. So how has that been for you, that process?
Well, I've had a lot of, I've got like a thing in my throat, need to take a drink. You know what that is? You can probably cut this bit out, but it's me throat chakra just wanting to clear.
I was
Probably what it is.
So
yeah, when it comes to investing in myself and the beliefs, I've had to do a lot of work on that, and I've come a long way. There was a fear, same things that you've experienced, Lydia. Who do I think I am? Why should I be doing this? This is a waste of money. You know, all this doubt can come up, and it's absolutely normal. It got to the point with me where I was on this self-development journey, and I was reading the books and I was listening to all the podcasts, and I'd get inspired and I'd feel like, yeah, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to go and do this. And then it just quickly faded away. It was like nothing was really changing. And I used to think, well, why is nothing changing? And I realized that it's because I wasn't actually putting skin in the game. I wasn't actually holding myself accountable to implement what it is that I was listening to, what it is that I was reading. And a lot of it, Lydia, was because I didn't know where to start. And this is why I know like a one-on-one coach is, it's seen as kind of like more luxury, but it's actually very valuable because it is intimate towards you and the coach, and you're actually getting it individual to your needs. And that's what I thought was the biggest thing that's helped me with my growth, is actually understanding that in order for me to change, I've got to do something different. I've never invested in myself. If I resonate with someone, if I feel a connection with someone and I enjoy their content and I enjoy what they're about and what they're saying, they're living and breathing the work, you can see it on them and energetically you can feel it, then I just trust that that's the right person for me to go to and get support from. And it was a lot of it was coming down to an acceptance that if I do want to grow, I can't do it on my own. Like no successful person has done it all by themselves. You do need that support and guidance. Do I think that you always need a coach or mentor? No, I don't. I don't think you constantly need one. I don't think you actually need one as such to create success in your life. I think people can do it. The information's out there. But what happens is when you get a coach, it's like a mirror gets held up to you in front of you, and you're like, okay, this is what your potential is. This is where your limitations are, and let's talk about it. So I think with a coach, they're not there to give you the answers. They're not there to hold your hand even. They're there to show you or to help you discover your own power and potential within, and then stand in that and then express that and then follow that, so you're not getting consumed with all the noise that's externally. So yeah, I just started to look at it from the stance of, if I don't do this, then I'm going to stay stuck, which is the greater pain. Sometimes like with us as like humans, one of our basic human needs is certainty, and we want to have certainty that when we make an investment, it's going to pay off and that we're going to get something back in return, or we want to know that it's going to be okay, that we're not going to quote unquote fail, or it's not going to come back to us and we're going to regret it. The reality is nothing. The only thing that's certain in that situation is the certainty of you staying the same. So if you value certainty, then you're going to have to value not making a move, because if you make the investment or not, if you don't make the investment, you're going to stay in the same place, because you're not going to you're not going to grow. You're not going to see what is possibly on the other side of that fear. So when you face the uncertainty and you have a deeper trust in yourself, and you know that you're being guided to do that, and you actually also make the payment, because the transformation's in the transaction. And when people pay, they pay attention. So when you're actually paying, you're paying attention to what is happening, you're more likely to implement it, you're going to get the results. And it might not happen straight away, all that will compound, so don't underestimate that. So yeah, I think for me, it was coming down to feeling worthy of actually doing that, knowing that I technically needed to in order to get there quicker. Because if I didn't do that, I'd probably still be right at the beginning. I wouldn't have made the progress that I've made. Don't get me wrong, I'm nowhere near that I want to be. However, the investments that I have made have helped me a lot, and it isn't comfortable at times. I would say to people, like, invest in someone who you feel will call you out on your own BS. However, they'll also hold a safe space for you, because you want to be able to feel comfortable with expressing. I think a lot of coaches, clients can subconsciously feel like the coach is almost like on a pedestal, and it's not like that. That's like all like old school white, like the culture of this person, the white man in the suits. Do you know what I mean? And they know better. Like it's that, and it's like, no, well, actually, it's your reality, it's your life. You've got to trust yourself. You've got to trust your vision. I'm just going to hold the space for you. We're going to work through these beliefs, and we're going to get you to where you want to be quicker, but you have to show up. It's a transaction, isn't it? An energy transaction, two ways. So yeah, bringing it back to the question, the fear of staying the same in the same place was greater than the fear of the investments that I made and actually working with a coach, because I knew what I wanted more, and I just ended up leading with my heart. So I wasn't so much in my head logically, and I was just like, I trust. I know that might sound really strange for some people and they might not get their head around it, but honestly, when you just feel into I want this and I know that I deserve this.
Yeah.
I'm going to level up and I'm going to show. And there's huge things that happen when you do that energetically. Like, it's like the universe begins to dance with you. It's like, okay, let's go. It's like the minute that you set a boundary at something, your internal self-worth raises. So when you make an investment in a coach, it's like your internal self-worth will raise. So then the universe is like, oh, okay, she's not messing around now. So then it will start to, like, the ball start to roll. So that's just what I found.
I love that. And just to be like on the other side of that, because obviously what I found really interesting last year was I made an investment from that space of alignment. Like, it all felt right. It was so exciting. Made an investment and I lost a lot of money. It was like 10K. And, you know, it spiraled me into a big, big place of self-doubt, into fear, into like, this is not working. And, you know, I've had to sit with that for a long time. And it's probably only recently that I've fully managed to break through. I think investing again in another coach definitely helped. But one of the things that I just sit with now is like, people say to me, fuck, 10K was a lot to lose. And I'm like, you know what? It was, but also the amount of lessons. And I think that's very important in business, is knowing that it's about ebb and flow. And even when things go wrong, and I know for a lot of people, like money is a massive thing that we're afraid of. It went wrong. I lost a lot of money. But like you've just said, that desire for me to keep going, like I had to wake up every single morning and just be like, just keep going and keep going and keep going. And that desire for me, knowing that I want more, it was basically like, you know what? We all lose money. You read any business book, you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you probably read Think and Grow Rich, listen to Bob Proctor, Lewis Howes. They all talk about losing money in business. It's part and parcel of the fucking journey. And it actually taught me a lot about investing, a lot about actually what to look for when I want to invest in a coach. You know, if we always invest and it always goes amazing, of course we want it to go amazing. But what do we learn when it goes fucking wrong and we're backed in a corner and we're like, shit, like, what am I going to do? And it teaches you so much. So you can invest with the greatest of intentions. I think the lesson I got from it was, don't be fooled by the fancy flashy stuff. And don't be fooled by people's promises. For me, it's always energetic when it comes now to signing a coach all the time.
I agree. And the thing is, even though you might be saying I lost the money, somewhere down the line that money will probably come back to you in some way. And also too, it's knowing, as you say, with the coaching world, trusting yourself and not being caught up in the noise, because as you said, at the time you were kind of led by the 6-figure months and going towards that. So really, was that investment on reflection in alignment with your authentic self, or was that in alignment with what you thought you wanted? And then you've gone through that journey to bring you back to your authentic truth, so you can actually, you know, make the transitions that you have to then share your voice. Because when you've gone through those types of experiences, and maybe you might work with clients who've gone through something similar, you're then able to be like, you know, I get that, I understand, because I was in a similar position. And it's difficult, isn't it? Because no coach can promise you anything, and that's a red flag. If you get on a call with a coach and they're like, right, I promise I'm going to make you 10K months, I'm going to help you get to 10K months every single month, it's just a massive red flag, because they can't guarantee that. So you just have to really, like you say, learn the lessons that you're going through and then use it to your advantage, and don't make it mean that you're not going to be able to do something in like the long term of what it is that you're building. Good things take time. Anything takes time to build. I think as well, I've definitely been there, so I'm calling myself out here. We want things tomorrow, like we want things to happen quickly, because we live in a fast-paced society of getting the next day delivery, getting the Starbucks coffee from the drive-through. Like, we're just so used to it. So when we're having to have a little bit of patience and trust, it's very difficult for us. And I think it's amazing, Lydia, that you've been able to get yourself out of that. And I know we spoke like personally on it, haven't we? And I know how much it affected you, and you've been able to not let it hold you back, because you're trusting that this is my journey, this is my path, and I know that this has happened for me. Yeah, it was rubbish at the time, but I'm not going to let it stop me.
No, and genuinely feel like it was meant to happen as well, you know, like, because I feel like it was about the sustainability of, the the hook was like, you know, we can create this sustainable business. And what it actually made me realize is we know our businesses best. And I, at that time, I wanted support, but I didn't need somebody to make a sustainable business for me by just copying and pasting the same structure that everybody else was getting, because my business was working and I knew that best. And I think that's another big lesson I got from it, is like, you know your business best, you know what it is. Even any like, you know yourself best. Even if you're thinking about making any investment, even in a fucking therapist, like, you know yourself the best. And even though it feels like you don't at times, I know it's that cliche thing of like, feel into it, all the answers are inside you, but they are. So when it comes to investing this time, you know, my coach, she's amazing. But it's really interesting because I charge more for my one-on-one than she charges. And I think last year, the kind of content I was consuming, it was always about, go to that coach's, where's the level that you want to be. But actually what I've realized is the coach that I'm with now, she's a fucking vibe. And it's not about what we charge. It's not about our offers. It's not about any of that. It's about just someone getting on a call with someone. And she's like, I see you. I see your potential. And I actually cared about making it work for you. And that's the most important thing. And I feel like if I wouldn't have went through that, I don't feel like I'd be a business coach. And now I have all this knowledge and experience of being like, okay, I don't want any client to go through that with me. Like, I don't want to be a carbon copy of other coaches out there. And I don't want to do the same thing with every client. Like, I know what it's like to invest a lot of money. And I just think it was definitely needed for me to step into a business coach.
Yeah. And it's trusting that, isn't it? It's trusting the journey.
It's really, really trusting it. So you talk a lot, last question, you talk a lot about meditation and manifestation. Why are they important for you, and how have they pushed you to your edges?
Meditation is a game changer. I know it's not for everyone, but honestly, meditation has been something that really helped me to understand myself better and create the space to be with myself. And I had to practice it. It wasn't easy. And don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these people who sits in silence and just meditates. No judgment if that's what you do and you enjoy that. I generally day to day enjoy doing like guided meditations where I'm visualizing my future self. As you say, I'm very into like manifestation, creating your reality and having a vision of the future and then being able to feel like I'm moving towards it. So I incorporate my visualization meditations as part of like my morning rituals to the point where it gets me excited to do the meditation. I think a lot of people feel like meditation is one way and you know this is the only way how the Buddhists do it, and if you're not doing it like that it doesn't count, which is not right. It's not correct. Like meditation is whatever it is feels for you. It's just simply being present with yourself. You can meditate when you're out on a walk, you can meditate when you're drawing and coloring in. It's just an art of just being present, and so you're not actually allowing yourself to just be wherever. You can, and sometimes I do with meditation, just put spiritual music on and I will just sit and close my eyes and I don't do any guided meditations. You know, if I'm really feeling like my mind's a little bit muddled and I've got a lot going on and I really want to connect to my voice, then that's a powerful way for me to do that. And the meditation helped me to really get clear on who I am, how I want to feel, how I want to show up. And it's really helped me to be a lot calmer, a lot more grounded, a lot more present with people. I almost as well like protecting my energy. So like what I mean is being observant, like observing situations more and observing like how I used to react and then how I would respond differently. And I know I mentioned about hypnosis, but hypnosis is like a deeper form of meditation that's going into the subconscious. And that's also been really useful for me to remove any blocks and heal, you know, heal the inner child and allow myself to get connected and excited with the future. When it comes to manifestation, I know that it's everywhere. It's on Instagram, it's on TikTok, it's on YouTube. I do believe in manifestation. I believe we're always manifesting, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. And I feel like things, as we've already touched on, I feel like things don't always happen in the way that we would like them to happen. However, there's always the universe is like wants the best for you, right? The universe isn't against you. It's not trying to hold you back. It's protecting you. And I actually have that core belief now, even though it can frustrate me at times when I'm not getting things in the way that I'd like. I have to remind myself, no, you're being protected for some reason. Something's going on. So what it is that you want can come to you, and it can come to you at any time, because time is, it's like, you can collapse time to be able to connect with the manifestation. It's just trusting that you're actually taking the aligned steps. So the way that I talk about it and do it is, whatever it is that you want in life, let's say you want, I don't know, this certain business and earn a certain amount of money, that's a certain set point energetically of internal worth. And then for you, if you're not at that level where that's like a consistent thing, it's because the identity is not matching that internally as your self-worth. So the trick here is that we focus on, so when you hear people say like get on the vibe and raise your energy, it basically just means work on your self-worth. So your self-worth internally as who you are matches what it is that you want in the physical. So changes all start internally, and then there's a little bit of a delay before things show up in the external. It'll come sooner or later. So that's one thing, how you spend time to reprogram your beliefs, to change your mindset, to do your meditations, do your practices that really support you to connect with that. And then when you're clear on what it is that you want, you start to take steps in the physical form, like the aligned action, the inspired action, connecting to your divine feminine intuition, and actually getting out your comfort zone and allowing yourself to keep moving forward. Everything that you're learning is just going to help you to be able to get to that stage. And it's not like, even if sometimes as well, one of the things I've found, and I don't know if you'll agree with me here with manifestation, if we say we want something and it's more from ego than it is from soul, there's more resistance to get it from when it's from ego. And I'm not saying it's bad to want materialistic things. That's not at all what I'm saying. I just find that sometimes, like, when it's authentic to you, like your coaching business and what you want to do, you will find a way, like you will be guided and it will come, and then you'll look back and you'll be like, I've been doing this work, like the meditations and the other tools and practices, and I've completely transformed who I am. Because transformation as well, like I say, it can happen quickly. It doesn't have to take years and years and years. It happens when you make the decision. However, it's not just one big event. It's like, it's the small things that you're doing, and then before you look back, you're like, oh, well, of course I've got this business, or of course I've got this lifestyle, because it's part of, like, I match that internally, so I'm going to attract it. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's all woo-woo stuff. It's not. There's science behind it. We know that everything's energy, the law of vibration, the laws of the universe. It's there, and there's so many people who have manifested and created things for themselves. And I know you have to, like, be careful what you take as gospel on social media. But honestly, it just comes down to being committed to do the work, and even when it gets uncomfortable, keep showing up. And just like I said, I always keep coming back to this, but you do have to have trust in something that's a bit bigger than you.
Yeah, because you have to have the awareness to spot the breadcrumbs. So the universe will always be leaving you the breadcrumbs, but if your eyes aren't open to them, then you're going to miss them. Every 100%. Single day you miss opportunities. And I think I do actually love that, like, analogy. But yeah, manifestation and meditation are so, like, part of my process as well. I'm not as good as meditation as you, but I did find when I took the break off social media and I was working on my dissertation, every single morning I do like a focus meditation for like 20 minutes. It's like the longest I've ever sat and just meditated, and it was amazing. I think that's partly one of the reasons why I smashed out my dissertation as quick as I did, and I got such a good mark, because I was just so, like, focused and, like, tuned in and tunneled in. So yeah, I love what it gives. I love the possibilities that it gives to people. So oh my god, a closing question I like to ask people, guests on the oh my god, it's getting so warm, I can't even talk.
It is warm.
It's so warm. A closing question I like to ask each guest on the podcast is, what's the one lesson you wish you were taught as a little girl?
I wish that I was taught as a little girl that no one really knows what they're doing anyway. So you might as well just put yourself out there and don't hold yourself back, because if people are going to judge you regardless. So I really wish if I could go back in time, I would have told my younger self to actually to actually put herself out there and stop thinking that other people know more or know better than you or have it better than you, because they don't necessarily. So you just have to kind of focus on you. And yeah, I think sometimes we do feel like it's going back to that whole old like paradigm of someone who's like on a pedestal, they're above you, they're better than you, and then you start to like almost bring yourself to a disadvantage and limit what you can actually do. And it's not about being delusional, because obviously people have their strengths and their weaknesses. It's just finding your strength and then just using it.
Yeah, I love that. It's like that analogy, like when you were a kid and you thought adults had all the shit together, or you thought like the parents had your shit together. And now I'm an adult, I'm like, wow, my parents to this day still don't have a fucking clue what they're doing. They're just like these people who've now got these other people to look after, and it's just such a funny way of like spinning things, because when you're a kid you just think adults know everything and they've got everything mapped out, and it's just so funny. Like I love that analogy, and I love that lesson. It's such a beautiful lesson. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. Where can people find you and how can they work with you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it. So you can find me over on Instagram. It is @_LauraLifts_. I'm also on TikTok now, because obviously everyone's kind of like moved over there. So Laura Lifts on TikTok. And then the podcast is called Lift Yourself. And you can find links to the podcast in my bio on Instagram. And then I'm also on YouTube. So I don't upload as frequently as I would like to YouTube, but that's also Laura Lifts. So there's lots of different ways that you can find me. So yeah, come and join me if you're wanting to know a little bit more about me.
Thank you so much for being on. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too.